Welcome to the Autism Advocate Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Hales. If you're looking for tips on how to advocate for and understand your autistic child in a more meaningful way, you've come to the right place, and we're so happy to have you join us. And welcome back, y'all. Today's deep dive. This is going to be tough. But it is so super important. I mean nothing but support and an understanding of I've been there twice. Love you, care for you. Also love and care for your kids. All right? So we're talking about receiving a diagnosis for your child. What to expect, what you may feel, what to do, and what not to do. Woof! So first, maybe you are in this position and you have just started this journey. I do want to remind you that all feelings are feelings. I don't associate morality with feelings, meaning there's no positive or good feelings and bad feelings. They just exist. That's like saying a plant is good or bad. It's not good or bad. It just exists. I would absolutely understand feeling overwhelmed, confused, shocked. With that feeling overwhelmed comes fear. It's a life unknown. And when we have things that are unknown, we feel out of control. We tend to fill in that unknown with worst case scenarios. And often we are not heavily involved in the autistic community before we receive an autism diagnosis, unless you yourself already have a diagnosis, and even then you would have had a diagnosis at a time where there wasn't a lot of support. So while this is a new time, you may be bringing in your own preconceived notions, and by I mean we are always bringing into any situation our life experiences into. So none of those feelings are wrong or right. They're just there. Now, some of the ones that maybe you're glad that you are feeling is validated. You have been led to or have led yourselves to a moment of being diagnosed, finally, having your child be diagnosed. And whatever has led you to that moment has probably been troubling for you. You've noticed differences within your child. Maybe your teacher has noticed differences within the child, or your primary care doctor or a therapist of some kind. Maybe a very nice friend of yours had said, have you ever considered, or anyway, and feeling like this must be a failing on my part, meaning I must not have been parenting right. A lot of times once you finally receive that diagnosis of this is a neurology and a difference, it's not a positive or negative thing, it's just an existence. It just is, meaning that this is not a direct reflection of your parenting or who you are, can feel very validating. Also, there are a lot of parents who have to push to receive this diagnosis because primary care doctors and other people dismiss it. A lot of people who you talk to and you express that concern to say, Andy, has these milestones that he's not hitting, or his verbiage has really decreased. Maybe other signs, symptoms, not making eye contact. He does a lot of flipping his hands in front of his face. He stares at ceiling fans, whatever, typical or not typical things that you are noticing and have concerns about. People are not comfortable with your discomfort, and naturally very kind, loving people will respond in a way that dismisses your concern. It's their attempt to fix that you feel uncomfortable. Now, is that helpful? No. Is it malicious? No. They just don't know what to say. So maybe you're finally in a moment where you're like, I knew something was different than what we were expecting, or than what we were already doing and thinking. This is a different direction. Anytime expectations are changed and an adjustment is made, you had expected a future that looked like this, and now it will look different, and the different is an unknown. Now, anytime you have a child, that future of the child is very unknown, right? You just are coming to terms with what their unknown future may look like has more complications in it, that you will probably have to advocate harder and dig more for answers on behalf of your child. And that can feel very overwhelming and intimidating. I hear that. One thing I do want to very much caution you about, and many people very much struggle with this. I understand it. I hear it. Please heed my words of caution. Avoid pouring out your overwhelmed, very sensitive feelings on social media. Again, I'll say it. Avoid pouring out your highly sensitive feelings on social media. Why? The internet is forever. Forever. And in this moment, you are a parent who is absolutely feeling things that are very valid in your parenting journey, but are perhaps something that would be heartbreaking, traumatizing, not okay for your child to ever know that you felt. All right? So consider your child being an adult or a teen or a young child and reading those comments and feelings that you are expressing. Some of those feelings, while valid, are meant to remain private, are to be spoken with or about to a very close loved one or spouse, or in the best case scenario, to a therapist. Now, I would absolutely highly recommend a therapist. I'd recommend a therapist to anyone, whether they had an autistic child or not, whether they felt they were at the bottom of a pit or not. So, meaning in their life, they feel like they hit rock bottom or not. But I also understand the privilege that comes from being able to afford therapy, whether that's monetarily or in time. I understand that's not available to other people. So some other options may be a diary. Some other options may be, again, a very good friend who is a skilled listener. But one of the things this kind of segues into my next point is to look for your people. Look for people who understand it's not your new life. It's the exact same life as before, but you have a new direction. We were trying to force ourselves to go this way because we were unaware of the facts, right? And now that we're aware of the facts, we're able to go the natural course that we had been destined to go the entire time. And now we won't be fighting trying to go this other direction. We know this is the direction that we're heading. Finding people who understand the triumphs, the struggles, the wonderful moments, it's a struggle to find a sitter and good care, the struggle with schools, the struggle with, whether that's on social media groups, whether that's a local group that meets in person, wherever you're at. Maybe it's just not a group. Maybe it's just one person that you really connect with. Maybe it's through the school that your child attends. But finding somebody who understands it on a very real level is so invaluable to your experience and in the experience that you'll have and how they will probably respond in a more supportive, compassionate way because they've been there and are there. One of the last things that I'm going to say, and is absolutely the most important, actually two things, sorry. First of the last two things is that please do not let your apprehension and fear of receiving a diagnosis be what gets in the way of your child getting the services, assistance, therapies, and help that they need as soon as possible. I have had a lot of parents that are in a partnership or marriage or perhaps a they're separated or divorced from their spouse, and they have different feelings about needing to get a diagnosis for their child than their spouse. And their spouse is expressing things like, well, I don't know, I don't want the label, is a big one that I get. Sorry, I just bumped my knee on the table. I don't want the label. I hear the fear. I understand that this changes so much. Too bad, honestly. That sounds awful and unfeeling. I'm saying that in full recognition of the feelings that you are experiencing. As a parent, you need to put those fears aside on behalf of your child's future potential success. We're talking about a child's needs. If you saw your child drowning, you would not say, oh, but I'm afraid of, what this will mean if I go rescue them. Your child is in need. Put those fears aside. Pursue the diagnosis. Get answers so that you can help your child. These are life. Honestly, I'm not just being I'm not just speaking metaphorically. These are life-saving situations. Imagine growing up feeling like every day you are failing and somehow it's outside of your control. Everyone around you is telling you that it should be in your control, but it's not. And you are failing everybody. All because you haven't received the clarity, validation, and diagnosis that would help you understand this isn't my failing. I'm trying to function the best I can with the tools that I have. Please put your fear aside. Pursue the diagnosis. Your child needs your help. You can deal with your fear later. Your child needs your help. Sorry, I had to get real mama bear on you. Stick with me. Lastly, receiving the diagnosis, your child has not changed. Let me say that again. Your child, after they received a diagnosis, has not changed. They are the exact same child. You have the same future as you would have had, except you have so many more tools, clarity, guidance, instead of this whole arena of parenthood, how to parent. Instead of all this to look to, now you can narrow it down to what will be effective, right? Instead of, 1 to 1,000,000 different ideas of how to parent, you should look through 50 to 100. That's where you should focus your research and what has been proven to be effective with other autistic children. You have also found out how to better understand their behavior, how to better love them and support them and help them who they are, not who you think they are, who you think they will be, who you hope they will become. You have figured out you have received information that will help you love them for who they are and support them in a more effective way. You have also given yourself and your child information that clarifies what will perhaps be a struggle, ways to work around things, ways to mitigate things that may cause sensory issues in the future, things that could be huge blocks within your child's development. You're able to have so much more specified, directed information that you would have otherwise been sitting there scratching your head, so upset, frustrated, along with your child, watching them suffer. You now have a very specific set of tools to access. Your child has not changed. What has changed is the information available to you, and it is now more specific so that you can be more specific in your approach and more effective, more loving, more understanding of your child. The things that are provided to them, whether it be therapies, whether you're going out in public, whether you're going to the store, meeting with friends, developing friendships, engaging with grandma and grandpa, getting things from school, education-wise, All of that has now received clarity. Please don't confuse this change, this shift in your understanding of their future. Think that you now have a different child. Your child is amazing. Your child will bring you absolute joy. I know that they do every day. And your child needs you to love and support them as they are, who they are, right here, right now. I hope that was helpful. If you know someone who has just received an autism diagnosis for their child, feel free to tag them, to share this video with them. Again, parents, I hear it. And for the sake of your child, there are some things that we just need to do. That's the role of parent that we've taken on. I'm rooting for you, and I'll see you next time.
Want to submit a question? Email us at theautismadvocatepodcast@gmail.com. Follow our social media outlets and check out our shop featuring my Autism Acceptance, Children's Illustrated books, and other fun autism acceptance items. Don't forget, I'm rooting for you, and we'll see you next time.